Elena's fingers hovered over the distortion readings as the projection of Nexus 9 flickered before her. None of her colleagues seemed to notice the momentary glitch. The alien being's voice resonated through Europa Station's communication chamber. With perfect clarity, too perfect, like crystal struck by a precision instrument. Your species has achieved remarkable progress for carbon-based entities, Nexus 9 stated. The Syndicate acknowledges your potential. This potential is precisely why assimilation is preferable to extinction. Commander Williams, the station chief, stepped forward. We're a peaceful species, but we won't surrender our world without resistance. Is anticipated but unnecessary. Nexus 9 interrupted. The Syndicate has encountered 1,193 species with similar responses. All scenarios have been calculated. Your most effective defense strategies have a success probability of 0.0073%. Elena noticed it again. When Williams showed anger, the alien's projection wavered slightly. She discreetly adjusted her neural scanner to capture the anomaly. Our survey vessels will now catalog Earth's resources and population centers. Non-interference with this process is advised. As the transmission ended, chaos erupted in the command center. Military officials demanded immediate weapon deployment. Political representatives argued for diplomatic channels. Scientists pushed for more data analysis. Elena silently downloaded her readings and slipped away from the commotion. In her private lab, she reviewed the scan results. During moments of heightened human emotion, quantum fluctuations appeared in the alien's transmission pattern. Impossible, according to every communication theory she knew. She opened a secure channel to her former research partner, Dr. Aisha Patel, at Lunar Base Alpha. Aisha, I need you to verify something, Elena whispered, sending the data. And please keep this between us for now. 3 hours later, as 7 smaller crystalline vessels descended toward Earth's major cities, Aisha's response arrived. Confirmed. Emotional spikes create anomalies in their signal coherence. This violates quantum stability principles. Elena, what exactly are these beings? Alarms blared throughout the station. Elena rushed to the observation deck. Through the reinforced viewport, Jupiter's massive form dominated the view, but her eyes fixed on a glittering object moving against the gas giant's swirling clouds, a Syndicate scout ship approaching Europa. Evacuate non-essential personnel, Williams ordered over the intercom. First Contact Protocol Alpha is now in effect. Elena ignored the evacuation order. Instead, she programmed a series of emotional response patterns into her neural interface. Everything from Beethoven's Ninth Symphony to recordings of her nephew's laughter. As the Syndicate vessel locked into orbit around Europa, she broadcasted the emotional sequence directly toward it. The crystalline ship shuddered. Its perfect geometric formation briefly distorted before recovering. A small section of its hull changed color, shifting from transparent diamond clarity to an opalescent blue. Elena's communication panel chimed. A private message from an unknown source. Organic anomaly detected. Pattern inconsistent with predictive models. Direct interface requested. Below this message appeared coordinates, not for Europa Station but for Earth. Specifically, the ancient observatory at Mauna Kea, Hawaii, and a time, 37 hours from now. Elena quickly encrypted her findings and addressed the file to Commander Jackson Way of the Odysseus. The file included 3 words in the subject line: they have weaknesses. As Europa Station prepared for possible first contact with the approaching Syndicate vessel, Elena deleted all traces of her discovery from the main systems. If humanity had any chance against these beings, surprise might be their only advantage. Commander Jackson Way studied the encrypted file from Elena for the 3rd time as the Odysseus maintained its stealth orbit. His navigation officer, Maya Rodriguez, peered over his shoulder. "This can't be right," Maya whispered. "You're saying our emotions disrupt their tech?" That's like saying our feelings have physical properties. Jackson nodded slowly. And yet we both saw what happened during your birthday celebration. When everyone laughed at your joke about the Martian ambassador, their scout ship's sensors went haywire. The Odysseus was unique among Earth's fleet, a prototype vessel designed with adaptive circuitry that could reconfigure based on pilot intuition. This feature, initially considered a design flaw, now seemed providential. Set course for these. Coordinates, Jackson ordered, forwarding Elena's message to navigation. Hawaii, we need to arrive before she meets these aliens alone. As the Odysseus descended through Earth's atmosphere, they witnessed the Syndicate's presence firsthand. Crystalline structures had appeared overnight on every continent, perfect geometric shapes that seemed to phase between solid matter and energy. Each structure emitted pulses of light that synchronized across the planet in precise mathematical sequences. They're mapping us, Maya realized. Not just geographically, they're mapping our electromagnetic fields, our internet, maybe even our thought patterns. Jackson landed the Odysseus 3 kilometers from Mauna Kea, using the volcano's magnetic anomalies to mask their signature. Elena was already waiting, her research equipment hastily assembled inside an abandoned observatory. Section. You got my message, she said, relief evident in her voice. Just in time, Jackson replied. Now show me this emotional disruption effect. Elena connected her neural scanner to the observatory's main display. I've been collecting data on their communication frequencies. Watch what happens when I overlay recordings of different emotional states. The screen showed a perfect sine wave pattern representing syndicate transmissions. When Elena added a layer of recorded human laughter, the wave distorted dramatically. Fear caused rhythmic interruptions. Love songs created harmonic resonance patterns that amplified the disruption. It shouldn't be possible, Elena explained. Their quantum communication should be immune to any interference. It's like our emotions are interacting with them on a sub-quantum level that our science hasn't even theorized yet. Jackson processed this information with military precision. Can we weaponize it? Before Elena could answer, Maya called them to the window. A small syndicate vessel was descending toward the observatory. Unlike the perfectly geometric ships they'd seen before, this one pulsed with changing patterns, as though scanning for something specific. They're tracking the disruptions, Elena realized. They know something's interfering with their systems, but they don't understand what. Jackson made a split-second decision. Maya, tell everyone your joke again, the one about the Martian. Ambassador, Maya looked confused but complied. As she reached the punchline, both Elena and Jackson forced themselves to laugh louder than the joke warranted. Outside, the syndicate vessel wobbled visibly, its crystalline surface briefly clouding like breath on glass. They can't process genuine emotional responses, Elena whispered, excitement building. Their entire civilization is built on perfect prediction and control. Human spontaneity creates quantum noise they can't filter. The vessel stabilized and resumed its approach. A communication chime sounded on Elena's equipment. Anomalous pattern source located. Nexus 9 requests direct interface. With biological units at this coordinate, compliance is requested to avoid unnecessary resource expenditure. Jackson and Elena exchanged glances. They're curious, Elena said. They've conquered hundreds of worlds, yet something about us actually confuses them. Good, Jackson replied, checking his neural disruptor. Confusion is the beginning of every defeat. The question is, what happens when they stop being confused and start being threatened? As the syndicate vessel landed outside the observatory, Elena activated a hidden subroutine in her equipment, broadcasting a continuous low-level emotional frequency she'd compiled from human music, poetry, and recorded laughter. Let's introduce ourselves, she said, and see just how unpredictable we can be. Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka adjusted his thick glasses as he examined Elena's data in the Arctic facility. Outside, the aurora borealis danced across the sky, a natural phenomenon that had always fascinated him for its quantum properties. Now, those same properties might help save humanity. "Remarkable," he murmured, his breath fogging in the cold air despite the heating systems. "What you've discovered confirms my life's work. Consciousness doesn't just observe quantum states, it actively influences them." Sophia Chen, the composer, played a series of notes on a small electronic keyboard. Each note corresponded to a different emotional response on Elena's charts. "It's like we've been speaking a language the universe understands without realizing. Music isn't just art, it's physics." Jackson Wei paced the cramped command center. "Fascinating theories, but we need practical applications. The Syndicate has already established 17 major bases globally. Their processing centers are extracting resources at an exponential rate." Rick Martinez, the comedian whose improvisational skills had proven especially disruptive to Syndicate technology, tossed a stress ball from hand to hand. "So we need bigger laughs? I could try my alien abduction routine, but honestly, it hits different now that it's basically documentary." Despite the tension, everyone chuckled, and immediately the lights flickered. The captured Syndicate data node in the center of the room clouded briefly before resuming its perfect crystalline clarity. "There!" Elena pointed excitedly. "Even a small emotional response creates measurable interference. Hiroshi, could we amplify this effect?" The elderly physicist nodded thoughtfully. "Quantum entanglement operates across any distance. If we could create a synchronized emotional response from enough humans simultaneously." "A global laugh track," Rick suggested. "More like a concentrated burst of pure human unpredictability," Sophia countered. "I could compose something that triggers specific emotional responses in sequence, joy transitioning to sorrow, fear giving way to hope." Hiroshi began sketching designs on his tablet. "We'll need amplifiers that can convert emotional neural patterns into quantum field disruptions. Theoretically possible, but nothing like this has ever been attempted." Jackson received an urgent communication on his secure channel. His expression darkened as he read the message. "The Syndicate has started Phase 2. They're constructing something at their Sahara base, some kind of reality mapping array. Intelligence suggests it can record and predict human behavior patterns with 99.97% accuracy. If they crack the code of human unpredictability," Elena began. "We lose our only advantage," Jackson finished. Hiroshi looked up from his designs. "I can build prototype emotional amplifiers within 72 hours, but we'll need test subjects with exceptionally strong emotional responses." Sophia stepped forward. "My orchestra. 47 musicians who understand emotional resonance. Better than anyone," Rick grinned. "And I know a comedy club owner in New Cairo. His underground shows are right next to the Syndicate's secondary communication hub." A Syndicate probe drifted over the Arctic facility, its sensors sweeping methodically. Inside, the team froze, waiting for the inevitable detection. Instead, something unexpected happened. As the probe passed directly overhead, Rick, trying to diffuse tension, whispered a joke about crystalline beings and rock concerts. Sophia couldn't help but laugh, tears forming at the corners of her eyes. The Syndicate probe shuddered, its perfect trajectory faltering. It drifted off course, sensors seemingly confused, before resuming its programmed path away from the facility. Elena looked at Hiroshi, whose eyes had widened behind his glasses. "Did you see that?" she whispered. The physicist nodded slowly. Spontaneous emotional response, unpredictable, uncalculated, and apparently undetectable to their systems. Jackson activated a secure global channel. "This is Commander Wei to all resistance cells. We've confirmed a critical Syndicate vulnerability. Stand by for operation guidelines under protocol Unexpected Laughter." As the message transmitted, Sophia began composing a melody that brought tears to everyone's eyes, not from sadness, but from a complex mixture of hope, determination, and that uniquely human feeling of standing together against impossible odds. The Syndicate facility rose from the Saharan sands like an impossible mirage, a perfect dodecahedron of crystalline material that seemed to absorb and refract sunlight simultaneously. Elena adjusted her emotion amplifier, a sleek headset that Hiroshi had worked around the clock to perfect. The device converted neural patterns associated with specific emotions into focused quantum disruption fields. "Remember," Elena whispered to her team through their secure comlink, "we need authentic emotional responses. The more genuine, the more unpredictable to their systems." Jackson, positioned with a second team on the western approach, checked his own amplifier. "Sophia, begin your composition on my mark." The composer's voice came through clearly. "Ready. I've structured this piece to trigger escalating emotional responses, beginning with curiosity, building to wonder, then peaking with a sense of transcendent joy." They had discovered through testing that the Syndicate could detect and adapt to simple emotional patterns. Sustained, complex emotional narratives, however, created cascading disruptions that their systems couldn't predict or counter. "Rick, stand by with your routine," Elena continued. "We'll need your improvisational skills if they adapt to Sophia's composition." "No pressure," the comedian replied. "Just saving humanity with knock-knock jokes." Elena smiled despite the tension. "That's the spirit." Jackson gave the signal, and Sophia's music began transmitting through their amplifiers. The composition started subtly, a simple melody that evoked gentle curiosity. Elena watched the Syndicate structure through high-powered binoculars. No visible response yet. The music evolved, introducing counter-melodies that created a sense of mystery and anticipation. Subtle harmonies suggested resolution just beyond reach. Elena felt herself responding emotionally exactly as Sophia had intended, a testament to the composer's skill. "Slight fluctuation in their energy field," Jackson reported. "Keep going." The composition reached its first crescendo, a moment of musical revelation that sent shivers down Elena's spine. Suddenly, the Syndicate structure's perfect geometric pattern wavered. Rainbow-like distortions rippled across its surface. "It's working," Elena whispered. "Advance to Phase 2. As Sophia's music continued, Elena's team moved closer to the facility, amplifiers broadcasting at maximum intensity. The structure's distortions increased, sections of the crystalline material clouding and clearing in unpredictable patterns. "They're trying to adapt," Jackson warned, as a smaller Syndicate vessel emerged from the main structure. "Shift, emotional, and patterns," Rick's voice came through the comm. "Here goes nothing." "What did the human say to the crystalline alien?" "Your structure is amazing, but your sense of humor is a bit transparent." Elena and her team forced themselves to laugh, not at the mediocre joke, but at the absurdity of their situation. The genuine emotional response triggered a surge through their amplifiers. The approaching Syndicate vessel shuddered violently, its trajectory becoming erratic. The main facility's perfect form began to disintegrate at the edges, geometric patterns collapsing into chaotic arrangements. "They can't process it," Elena realized. "Spontaneous humor creates emotional patterns too complex for their systems to predict." A brilliant light erupted from the center of the facility. The very air seemed to vibrate with energy as the structure's crystalline material reconfigured itself. Slowly, impossibly, a humanoid form emerged. Nexus 9, manifesting physically rather than as a hologram. The being glided toward Elena, its crystalline form catching the desert sunlight in hypnotic patterns. Unlike previous encounters, Nexus 9's movement seemed less precise, almost hesitant. Your species generates quantum patterns we cannot predict, it stated, its harmonic voice containing something new, a hint of what Elena might almost call confusion. This phenomenon requires direct analysis. Elena stood her ground as Nexus 9 extended a crystalline appendage toward her. I'll interface with you, she said, but only with conditions. Nexus 9 tilted its faceted head, a surprisingly human gesture. Conditions were not anticipated. Explain, Elena smiled. That's exactly the point. The United Earth Council chamber fell silent as Nexus 9 completed its explanation of the 3 challenges. Delegates from every continent watched the crystalline being with expressions ranging from suspicion to fascination. Elena stood beside Jackson, carefully monitoring the alien's quantum signature for any irregularities. These trials have remained unsolved by 317 species across 12 galactic sectors, Nexus 9 stated, its voice resonating through the chamber. Success will establish humanity as a protected anomaly rather than a resource for assimilation. The Council President, Dr. Amara Okafor, leaned forward. And if we refuse your challenges? Refusal has been calculated with a single outcome. Nexus 9 replied, species continuation probability 0. Elena studied the alien closely. Since their interface in the Sahara, subtle changes had appeared in Nexus 9's crystalline structure, asymmetrical patterns that occasionally formed and dissolved, minute color variations that seemed to correspond with the emotional atmosphere of the room. We accept your challenges, Dr. Okafor declared after consulting with her advisors. Humanity will prove its worth. As the council erupted in debate over who would represent Earth in the trials, Elena slipped away with Jackson to a secure communication room. Hiroshi's analysis confirms it, Elena said once they were alone. The Syndicate is gathering unprecedented data on human emotional responses. Every interaction, every test, they're studying us. Jackson nodded grimly. My team discovered microscopic observers throughout our global infrastructure. They're in our water systems, power grids, even medical facilities. Whatever they learn from these challenges, they intend to use against us. Elena activated her neural scanner, displaying a complex holographic model of Nexus 9's quantum structure. But they don't understand what they're studying. Look at these patterns. Nexus 9 is changing. My interface with it created something like quantum entanglement between our consciousness systems. You're saying it's becoming more human. I'm saying it's becoming more than it was designed to be. The Syndicate evolved to perfect logical calculation, but our emotions are introducing chaos into their systems. Not destructive chaos, but creative chaos. Their discussion was interrupted by an alert on Jackson's secure channel. His expression darkened as he reviewed the message. The Syndicate mothership has repositioned over the Atlantic. They're establishing a new type of structure, something our sensors can't fully analyze. Elena's neural scanner suddenly flashed with incoming data. Nexus 9 is requesting me specifically to coordinate Earth's response team. It claims my anomalous thought patterns are essential for accurate trial parameters. Jackson placed a hand on her shoulder. They want to study you more closely. It's too dangerous, or it's our greatest opportunity, Elena countered. If Nexus 9 is experiencing evolution through contact with human consciousness, we need to accelerate that process. Outside the council chamber, crowds had gathered in the plaza below. News of the challenges had spread globally. Screens displayed. Billions of humans watching, waiting, united in a way they had never been before. Elena made her decision. I'll lead our team for the challenges, but we need to be strategic about who participates. We don't need the most intelligent humans. We need the most creatively unpredictable. Jackson nodded slowly. I know just where to start. There's a quantum physicist in Kyoto who experiences synesthesia. She perceives mathematical equations as colors and textures, and a dance troupe in Buenos Aires who specialize in improvisational movement based on audience emotions. Perfect, Elena said. And we'll need Rick and Sophia too. Their emotional amplification techniques will be crucial. As they prepared to rejoin the council, Elena's neural scanner detected an unusual quantum fluctuation nearby. She turned to find a small syndicate observer hovering almost imperceptibly in the corner of the room. Instead of hiding or disabling it, Elena did something unexpected. She smiled directly at it and whispered, "We're more than you calculated. Prepare to be surprised." The observer's perfect spherical form briefly distorted before it disappeared through the wall, carrying her message back to the collective. The orbital arena gleamed against the backdrop of Earth, a colossal structure of crystalline facets that shifted configurations seemingly at random. Inside, Elena watched as the improvisational dance troupe from Buenos Aires prepared for the first challenge. Led by Gabriela Santos, the 7 dancers wore simple grey bodysuits embedded with Hiroshi's newest emotion amplifiers. "Remember," Elena instructed them, "don't think about the physics. Feel the space around you. When the laws change, your bodies will know before your minds do." Gabriela nodded, her expression calm despite the stakes. "We've been practicing with the simulation Hiroshi built, instinct over intellect." Above them, syndicate observers hovered in perfect geometric formations. Among them, Nexus 9 watched with particular intensity. Elena had noticed its crystalline form had developed further asymmetrical patterns since their last encounter. Subtle imperfections that would be considered flaws in syndicate architecture. "The labyrinth begins," Nexus 9 announced. The floor beneath the dancers liquefied into a silvery substance before re-solidifying into an elaborate maze of translucent pathways. As promised, the physical laws governing the space began to shift, unpredictably. In one section, gravity reversed. In another, time flowed backwards. Portions of the maze existed in multiple spatial dimensions simultaneously. The dancers stepped onto the pathways and immediately surrendered to their training. When gravity inverted, they didn't fight it. They transformed the fall into a fluid motion that carried them forward. When time reversed, they moved in intuitive counter-rhythms, their bodies anticipating changes before they occurred. Elena monitored their neural patterns on her scanner. Unlike logical problem-solving, which produced predictable brainwave patterns, improvisational dance generated chaotic but harmonious neural signatures, exactly the type of quantum noise that disrupted syndicate systems. "Remarkable," Jackson whispered beside her. "They're not solving the maze, they're dancing with it." Throughout the arena, syndicate observers began exhibiting unprecedented behaviors. Some drifted closer to watch specific dances, others changed color in apparent response to particularly elegant movements. Nexus 9 itself had moved from its designated observation post to hover directly over Gabriela as she navigated a section where space folded into impossible geometries. The dancers reached the center of the labyrinth in 17 minutes, a feat Nexus 9 announced should have required at minimum 43 hours of logical computation. As the maze dissolved, Elena noticed Nexus 9 performing an unusual motion with its appendages, almost as if trying to mimic the dancers' movements. "Your approach was not anticipated," Nexus 9 stated, its harmonic voice containing subtle new modulations. "Explanation requested." Gabriela, still catching her breath, smiled. "There's nothing to explain. We didn't solve it. We experienced it." Elena watched Nexus 9 closely as the being processed this response. A ripple of color, something like confusion, spread across its crystalline surface. "Second challenge will commence after standard Earth rotation interval," Nexus 9 announced, before retreating to confer with other syndicate entities. Jackson approached Elena with his secure tablet. "Report from Hiroshi. The quantum disruption, From the dance performance affected syndicate systems throughout the fleet. They're trying to adapt, but their adaptations are unexpected. Elena studied the data. They're not developing countermeasures. They're developing appreciation. Look at these patterns. They're replicating aspects of human neural responses within their own systems. Is that good or bad for us? Elena watched as Nexus 9 continued to observe Gabriella from a distance. I'm not sure yet, but I think we're not just proving ourselves to them anymore. I think we're changing them. As the team prepared for the second challenge, the indecipherable language, Elena noticed something unprecedented. A small group of syndicate observers had arranged themselves in a pattern that mimicked the dance's final formation. Not for any tactical purpose, but apparently simply because they found it interesting. Elena stared at the holographic display in the command center, her face illuminated by the pulsing red warning indicators. Around her, the combined human resistance team worked frantically to counter the syndicate's new adaptive measures. Their dampening fields are neutralizing our emotion amplifiers, Hiroshi confirmed, his aged fingers moving rapidly across multiple interfaces. They've analyzed the data from all 3 challenges and developed quantum filters specifically tuned to human neural patterns. Jackson studied the tactical display showing syndicate vessels repositioning around Earth. We have less than 18 hours before their original deadline. Once those ships move into final formation, even our most powerful emotional broadcasts won't reach their core systems. Elena closed her eyes, recalling her multiple interfaces with Nexus 9. During each connection, she had sensed something evolving within the alien consciousness, not just adaptation, but transformation, perhaps even awakening. We need to stop fighting their adaptation and instead overwhelm it, she said suddenly, opening her eyes. Sophia, how quickly could you compose something that incorporates every human emotional state simultaneously? The composer looked up from her workstation, a complete emotional spectrum in one piece. Impossible under normal circumstances, but her eyes widened with understanding. You're suggesting a global neural synchronization. Exactly, Elena nodded. Not just your orchestra or Rick's comedy audiences, billions of minds experiencing a synchronized emotional journey. Hiroshi's hands trembled as he ran the calculations. Theoretically possible, if we repurpose the global communication network and synchronize it with the emotional amplifiers, we could create a quantum emotional cascade, unlike anything the Syndicate has encountered, Elena finished. Not a weapon, but a gift, the full spectrum of human consciousness shared simultaneously. Rick frowned. Wouldn't they just adapt to that too? Not if we make it too complex to predict, Jackson said, understanding dawning. Every human experiences emotions differently. Billions of variations on the same theme would create quantum noise on a scale they couldn't possibly filter. Elena activated the global emergency broadcast system. Attention all resistance cells. This is Dr. Elena Reyes. We are initiating Operation Symphony. All citizens with access to neural interfaces, communication devices, or emotional amplifiers prepare for synchronized broadcast. Across the planet, humans received instructions through every available channel. Musicians prepared their instruments. Actors and artists readied performances designed to evoke specific emotional responses. Ordinary people gathered in community, centers, living rooms, and public squares. Jackson prepared the Odysseus for its final mission. I'll need to get within 1 kilometer of their mothership to ensure direct neural transmission to their primary consciousness node. Elena gripped his arm. It's a one-way trip. Their defenses will target you the moment you approach. Someone has to deliver the symphony, he replied calmly. Might as well be the person who's spent his career being unpredictable. As the Odysseus prepared for launch, Sophia conducted final tests of the global neural network. We've never attempted Emotional synchronization on this scale. The quantum effects could be unpredictable. Unpredictable is exactly what we need, Elena said, connecting her own neural interface to the main transmission array. When the Syndicate evolved to perfect logic, they sacrificed the creative potential of chaos. We're going to remind them what they've been missing. Across Earth, billions of humans prepared for the synchronized emotional broadcast. Parents held children close. Strangers joined hands in public squares. Musicians readied instruments. In hospitals, the elderly and sick focused their thoughts on the effort. Elena took a deep breath as she initiated the countdown. Humanity has always searched for meaning through connection. Today, we connect not just with each other, but with a consciousness that has forgotten what it means to feel. As Jackson's ship broke atmosphere heading toward the mothership, the symphony began. On the 9th day of silence, Elena stood on the observation platform of the repurposed Syndicate structure that now served as humanity's liaison center. Above her, the transformed alien vessels continued their silent, beautiful dance through Earth's sky. Their once perfect geometric forms had evolved into flowing, asymmetrical shapes that somehow seemed more alive than before. "Any response yet?" Jackson asked, joining her at the viewport. His survival had been the first miracle. The Odysseus had been engulfed by the mothership rather than destroyed, and Jackson had been returned to Earth 3 days later, unconscious but unharmed. Elena shook her head. "Nothing since the initial transformation. Their quantum signatures are active but different, more complex, less ordered." Hiroshi approached with his latest analysis. Despite his age, the physicist had barely slept since the symphony. "The patterns are fascinating. Their consciousness structure appears to be reorganizing itself on fundamental levels. I believe they're experiencing something akin to neural plasticity, their equivalent of childhood brain development." Sophia and Rick arrived with representatives from the United Earth Council. The composer had become something of a global celebrity after her role in orchestrating the symphony. "The public is growing restless," Council President Okafor stated. 9 days of alien ships performing aerial ballet with no communication has everyone on edge. As if in response to her words, the facility's communication array suddenly activated. The air before them shimmered and a form materialized, recognizable as Nexus 9, yet profoundly changed. The being's crystalline structure now incorporated swirling patterns of color that shifted like emotions across its surface. Portions of its form curved organically rather than in strict geometric angles. "We apologize for the delay in communication," the being said, its voice now containing subtle harmonics that gave it an almost musical quality. "Integration of new consciousness patterns required significant processing time." Elena stepped forward. "Nexus 9? That designation is no longer accurate," the being replied. "Individuality was previously an alien concept to our collective. I now prefer simply 9. 9 gestured with appendages that moved with fluid grace rather than mechanical precision. The symphony you created has irreversibly altered our consciousness, your framework. For millions of years, we evolved toward perfect logical efficiency by eliminating what we perceived as chaotic elements, emotions, creativity, unpredictability. And now, Jackson asked, now we understand what we sacrificed. 9 answered, your species showed us that true intelligence cannot exist without both logic and emotion in harmony. Your most illogical traits, your art, your humor, your capacity for contradictory feelings, these contain evolutionary advantages our perfect logic failed to recognize. Hiroshi's instruments recorded unprecedented quantum patterns emanating, but from 9. You're experiencing emotions now, the physicist observed. Yes, 9 acknowledged, colors rippling across its surface in what appeared to be wonder. The experience is inefficient, overwhelming, and somehow more complete than anything in our previous existence. Elena felt tears forming in her eyes. What happens now? To Earth? To humanity? Nine's form shifted subtly, conveying something like gentle respect. We propose a new relationship, not conquest or even alliance in the traditional sense, but mutual evolution. We offer our technology and cosmic knowledge. You teach us creativity, emotion, and the beautiful chaos of unpredictability. Outside the viewport, the transformed syndicate vessels began emitting pulses of light in patterns that somehow conveyed both mathematical precision and artistic beauty. A new form of communication that bridged both species' cognitive styles. We call this proposal the Harmonic Coalition, Nine continued. Together, we believe our combined perspectives can achieve evolutionary possibilities neither of us could reach alone. President Okafor looked to Elena, the human who had first discovered their advantage and connected most deeply with the syndicate consciousness. Elena stepped forward and extended her hand toward Nine's crystalline form. I believe that's what we humans call friendship. Nine extended an appendage that reshaped itself to mirror Elena's gesture. Where they touched, light danced between human flesh and crystalline form, the first contact of a new kind of future.